Fair Game is about the CIA operative Valerie Plame, who was an undercover agent working all over the world, but mostly in the Middle East and Far East. And her husband, who was a former ambassador and known for his bravado, and how their lives were turned upside down when the White House leaked to a Washington columnist her true identity as an undercover agent.
The SSCI found the email. Why didn't you tell me? It never occurred to you in all this time that this would be important?
It's a political film, of course, because it deals with politics, but in its heart, it's a film about marriage. And I was surprised. I didn't anticipate that. I thought it would be much more about Washington intrigue, and it's not. And it was refreshing that it wasn't.
You're going to defend us now.
So what do you want me to do? Go to the papers like you did? Write a piece in the New York Times? You know I'd have to submit it to the agency.
Wait, honey, go play. Go on. The agency? Valerie, who's your loyalty to? To your husband or the CIA?
It's set in a political story, but it's about Joe Wilson and Valerie Plame and what they went through.
I put my family first, always. Were you putting them first when you wrote that goddamn article?
I can see why Thierry chose this film, because it's not a Hollywood movie at all. It's got Hollywood people in it, but it's not a Hollywood movie. It's very much a con film. It's got political undercurrents and overtones. But it's also a story about relationships, and that's what con films, they're often like poems, and there's some poetry in this.
Maybe I just should have kept my mouth shut. Is that what your dad taught you, Valerie? Is that what Colonel Sam Plame would say? A good American just keeps his mouth shut. A good American just looks the other way.
It's told in a way that doesn't rehash what we already know. It's telling us the backstory and what was happening that we didn't see.
I'm taking different routes to and from school. I'm looking in empty rooms, under beds, every time I come home. A home we're going to lose pretty soon because your work has dried up and your clients are running for cover.
Doug Liman's father ran the Iran-Contra investigation, and therefore he understands this, and that's why I think this movie is so powerful. He understands how it works and the power of politics and what really happens in Washington, and that comes through in a way that's very rare in Hollywood, because most people in Hollywood don't get that, but he obviously grew up and lived it, so he understands it.
Did you send me?
I think I'm lying to you.
Could I tell if you were?
Trevor, honey?
I think Fair Game's going to do really well for one incredibly simple reason. It's not violent. And, as a viewer, not as a film writer or critic or anything, but as a viewer, I avoid most of those war pictures because I just don't want to go sit in a theater and watch people's heads get blown off and bodies writhing on the ground with guts pouring out of them. And while that may be a real depiction of war, I get it. I don't need to see it. And this doesn't do that. It shows you fear in the war zone immensely. It shows you how you want to protect your family in the war zone. It shows how everyone is so vulnerable and you just don't know. And those things, I think, are much more powerful than showing somebody writhing on the ground with their guts hanging out. There was no time in this movie I had to close my eyes, and I thought, if I can get through it, anybody can get through it. And that's a good sign, because I'm an incredibly squeamish person. And I think for that, it will do very well in the box office.